Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Could I ask everybody to please just remain standing for a moment of silence? For Seymour Warshoff, who was a guidance counselor here and retired in 1991. Mr. Warshoff worked with Tony Prococo in the guidance office. He had 2 children that went to school here, and his wife Belle worked here as a social studies teacher. Thank you. Be seated. We have a motion for the acceptance of the minutes of the January 28, 2020 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? No one? Motion carries unanimous. Public forum? No one on the public forum for this evening. We will now go to presentations. I have with us tonight the athletic director, Mr. Kermit Moyer, our football coach, Dan Cavanaugh, talk about 8-man versus 11-man football program. Gentlemen, welcome. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having us. Would you like us to?
Yeah, take the podium, please.
So we thank you for having us. We understand, as we prepared for this evening, that there may be some additional questions or things that you would like to have hear from us regarding the recommendation to participate in the 8-man football conference for the 2nd year in a row. So it's my understanding, I think that there was some questions that may be asked of us if we could answer them in regards to that. I did submit a report that was at the January 11th meeting.
So one of the questions that I'll ask is the growth of the football teams. Where do we see ourselves? What's the future of our football program here? And is it realistic that we're ever going to get back to the 11-man football team?
So I'll start off, and then I'll turn it over to you, Dan. So I think the goal is always to continue to increase our participation. The youth program is also providing us with some solid numbers. They did have a little drop in their numbers at the 3rd and 4th grade level, and I know that was in my report that I submitted for 2 board meetings ago. So I think the goal is to continue to work and strive towards that. In terms of the specifics, I think Coach Cavanaugh would have a better answer, or at least a response to where he sees our numbers going forward.
Yes, just to piggyback off that, so crunching the numbers, we met with Ms. Wiles too a month or so ago. But to answer your question directly, us and Spack and Kill, talking like in my inner circle of coaches, seem to be the only 2 teams that are really trying to get back to 11-man. Speaking to the other coaches in their districts, they, based on their numbers as well, is they don't have any intent. Focus here on Allenville. We started a Pop Warner program. We were hoping that's going to help, but when we crunch the numbers, as of right now, it's not helping. I'm sorry, let me rephrase. It's definitely helping. It's not where we thought it would be. I believe it's in the 3rd year going into the 4th year. And I say that because even unbeknownst to me, until I really crunched the numbers, we haven't had a JV program in quite a few years. So our modified program is grades 7, 8, and 9 because, we thought that, in other schools don't do it. It's questionably, unsafe to have sophomores at a varsity level, let alone 9th graders. So most of the schools went to a 7, 8, 9. However, if we didn't have the 9th graders playing modified, we wouldn't have had enough kids this year to play modified football in just grades 7 and 8, which that has never happened in the history of Allenville. So when we crunch the numbers, for me, talking to the other coaches, I'm like, okay, this can't be an Ellenville thing. And talking to other coaches, unfortunately, whether you want to hear it or not, it's not an Ellenville thing. And it's not just football. I know we're here to talk about football, but the numbers are dropping across the board. And, a good example is, one of the programs that Ellenville, which is, we jump between Class C and Class B, that, a lot of the programs look up to is Marlboro. Marlboro is, they're always a championship team, so on and so forth. And for the first time in all their years, this upcoming season, they are going to modified football of 7, 8, and 9. So to us and to other coaches, that was alarming. We're like, as coaches, we kind of joke because like, all right, they're not going to have a JV. Well, we haven't had a JV in almost 10, I think it's like 7 years. And all the other teams that we compete against in 8-man are the same thing. So it seems like football, definitely not just in Ellenville, but across Section 9, the numbers are dwindling down. And like I said, it's not just football. I'm here to talk about football, but I coach 2 other sports, and the numbers are significantly down in those. The good thing is in Ellenville, what some people may not know, I know Mr. Moyer knows this, I'm sure Ms. Wiles, is we're still one of the few schools at our classification, which is from C to B, that in most sports, I think besides football, we offer a modified, a JV, and a varsity program. Where like for me as the basketball and the baseball coach, there are a lot of schools in our division at our size that don't even offer the JV programs because their numbers are significantly down. So there's something going on, with lack of participation. My thoughts are simply, the advantage I have in talking to Mr. Moyer is, as a phys ed teacher, I get to see all the kids. So like, I do the recruiting. I talk to the kids, the kids recruit themselves. That's really the best way, but I'm kind of in their inner circle. And just from what I get, just here in Ellenville is just, and Mr. Moyer put it in his report, the biggest thing to me, in my opinion, is the lack of commitment. Because in the football, especially with football, you have to give up your summer. And a lot of kids and parents, don't want that. A lot of kids have to work. A lot of kids, don't want to, put in the extra effort. And they'd rather just, and I hate to say this because it's a summer here, but like a lot of kids just want to do the easy thing. And I think social media plays a little part of it, where there's a lot more kids that just rather just, instead of, playing outside like we did when we were kids, they could just easily sit at home and watch YouTube all day or do this and do that. But, it's kind of alarming. And, I'll just end on this, and if you have any more questions. We just had our football banquet, where like we had honored Walter Evans and Sean Petway here. And at the football banquet, one of the coaches, kind of like a commencement speech, they ended, stuck in my head, that he was pleading to the coaches and to the kids to like promote football. Like we don't want to see football go away, but we know here in Section 9 and across the state of New York that the numbers are going down. So it was kind of like, communicating to all the seniors that are graduating, like if you can, and you ever go into coaching, like promote this great game of football. It's a great game, but for some reason we're just under, scrutiny, and whether it's the concussion protocol stuff or whatever you want to point your finger to, it is alarming. So, to get back to the original question, we plan on going back to 11-man. That's always the intent, but right now, based on the numbers, we're at least a year or 2 away at best. And I know, the last thing I can say is I know Ms. Wiles shared some numbers with us, and the projections going down, like in the kindergarten class, like all those classes the enrollments are even lower than what they are now. So we're hoping that the youth football will get more kids out, but I know like realistically our enrollment numbers are also starting to decline. I think that also played a part in some of the other schools as well that, transitioned to 8-man as well. So hopefully that helps a little bit.
Thank you. Any other board members? Iris?
So I just wanted to clarify, so primarily this decision is based on numbers, how many students you have and how many you can anticipate coming up, right? I mean, I don't have the report in front of me now, unfortunately, but I'm just trying to understand, and Mr. Burns isn't here tonight either, and he may have some questions about this, but I just wanted to be clear that it's basically the decision rests on the number of students you anticipate who are going to play for the year. Is that correct?
That is correct. And last year, when we made the transition to 8-man for the first year, that was a significant concern in the sense that we didn't want to have the season start where we would be in a position if we started 11-man that we wouldn't be able to field a team, which would then result in us not having a team at all and then telling our 6 or 8 seniors that we had that they wouldn't be able to play football. So that was, that was a big driver for last year as well, that we would still give our seniors an opportunity to play football. And moving forward, that is still a concern. Even though the kids that are on this year, the returning players, I met with each of them. They said they're all planning on playing. Help me, coach, is that about 17 kids coming back? 17, those 17 kids are all planning on playing, and they told me verbally they plan on doing that. But that could also change for a number of reasons. They decide not to. I'm not really sure what that would be at that point. Maybe they get a job, maybe they do something else, maybe they try a different sport. So that does play a big role.
Can I just follow up?
Yes.
What would be an eight-man team? How many players do you need to make up, 8-man team, and how many do you need to make up 11-man team?
Right.
I mean, I'm sure there's some
Yeah, thanks.
ballpark
Yeah,
there.
great question. Dan was making sure I remembered correctly. So in 11-man, you need 16 players dressed to field a team.
16.
All right, so if you have injuries throughout the year, or someone becomes ineligible, or they just get dinged up and they're missing a game here or there, if you don't dress 16, and that was our concern last year, is that we wouldn't be able to play that game. We might have to forfeit that game. In 8-man, it's 12. You have to have
It's how many?
12. You have to have
12.
12 players dressed and ready to play. So
Thank
if you
you.
think about it, that's, even if it's minimum of 12, that puts the kids, the kids are playing probably both ways.
Right.
It could be a safety concern. You only have 4 substitutes, and especially, if you have some inexperienced kids that are, not your starters, that plays a significant role as well. And I know that's part of Coach Kavanaugh's thought process, as well as the lack of experience that some of our kids have as they come into our varsity level team.
Just real quick, for me as a coach, especially coaching the game of football, the one thing I'm always proud of, jinx it here, is each year, I've been doing this now, I can come off the field and say, I didn't put that kid in danger. Our concussions are way down here. The kids are safe. So the state goes by numbers, but I know the section and the coaches, obviously, we use a little common sense. So, a quick example, if we had, let's just say you want to play 11-man, and we had, 8 seniors that wanted to play, and the only other kids who wanted to play were, let's say, 20, or, I'm making up, let's say, 15 other kids who've never played football before, I don't think they would be playing 11-man or 8-man for that aspect because of the inexperience. Like, it's tough when, if I've never played before and now the coach is asking me, who's 120 pounds soaking wet, to go up against this kid from, Marlboro or Burke, who's a senior stud, and because we have no one else, now that kid's at safety. As a coach, I wouldn't want that, and now as a parent, I definitely would not want that. I would be questioning the coach and the school, like, why are you putting my kid out there against that? So the numbers from the state are the 16 and 12, but there's more to it than that, and I know Mr. Moyer had put that in his report. It's also really about safety.
It's a judgment call to some degree on your part.
Yes, and obviously we want to, in this day and age, even back then they should have, but you want to always side on caution. I would never want to go out there and, one of my kids or 2 of my kids get concussions, and now, I get asked, in a court of law or here, like, why are those kids out there? I want to be able to back it up with, okay, I put them out there and they were safely put out there because they proved X, Y, and Z to me at practice, and they were capable of, holding their own out there, so to speak.
Any other board members want to be heard? No? All right, Mr. Moyer, you have anything else for us?
No, I just want to only to thank you and thank the community as well with this opportunity tonight. It was great community support. I've heard Coach Kavanaugh speak at a couple of different events, and he reiterated that as well. It was just a fantastic season. Our kids had just accomplished so much, which was tremendous for the morale and the program itself, and to see the joy and the expressions on their faces for what they did and what they accomplished was just fantastic. And I think that's, they're still talking about it, we're still celebrating it, and we want to use that as, obviously to continue to build on as we go into next season as well. So I don't know if you want to add anything else, Coach?
I think the only thing, I think Kermit kind of said it here, is, the one thing that, as much as no one wanted to go from 11-man to 8-man, the best thing that could have came out of this was that, 1, all the kids, safely made it off the field, but 2, the community. Like, if you guys were there, and I know some of you were, it was an experience that we'll never forget, and it's arguably one of the greatest seasons in football history. Even though it was 8-man, we ended on a win, going, to a state regional game, which It's never been done in the history of Ellenville. No team has ever won a state game. So the morale and everything is just so huge that, you know, if there was no 8-man, none of this would have happened. And to see the expression on, especially the seniors going off, but even the excitement on the kids that were on the team who, you know, we had quite a few kids who never played, you know, and I try to, you know, dig at them a little bit, but like, would you have played if we were playing 11-man? And the body language and some of the answers I got, the answer would have been no. But at the 8-man level, they knew that every team we were playing were all in the same boat. We all don't have a JV team. We don't have a year-round program because most of the coaches like me are coaching 3 sports because it's a smaller school. So everything was kind of on equal ground, and, you know, it culminated in a championship, and that's something that would never be taken away from the kids. And that's, you know, I'm so proud of that for the kids to have a lifelong memory when they reflect back at Ellenville. So thank you for that, because you guys were a part of that for making that happen. So thank you.
Well, thank you for all your hard work, and thank your team for all their hard work and for representing the Ellenville community. One thing I will say in all the games that I went to there in the championship was the sportsmanship that was displayed by Ellenville, and that starts with you, and it starts with Kermit, and it goes up to Kermit's level, but it certainly starts with this district and how they're, and certainly their parents and the community as well. But the sportsmanship was unbelievable. You know, no matter how calls went against them, or somebody, the other team maybe threw a shove or something like that, they didn't react, they weren't provoked, and they kept their cool about them, and that's important. You know, winning is important, but sportsmanship really dictates, you know, how good the win is. And
it speaks of their character too.
and it's a testament to their character, and it's a testament to your character, Mr. Kavanaugh. So thank you for all your help.
Thank you.
and hard work.
I appreciate it.
Again, thank you for having us tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. So our next item is, I had an opportunity to watch the board is, we hired in conjunction with the town and the village, and we hired a marketing person, Gerald Berliner, and it's always a question, what's he doing? Where are we? You know. So I got an opportunity to watch a marketing video that was produced by Mr. Berliner. And it's applying for HGTV Town Makeover, and I thought it was worth the school board taking a peek at it up here. It's only about 5 minutes long, and I think you'll enjoy it.
Does Julie
Even though we
want
were-
on this side to see?
Even though we were page 6 in the Schwangunk Journal and not page 1, just a little fun with you. Ah, there you go.
You guys ready?
Yeah.
As part of the town of Wawarsing in Ulster County, New York, with a current population of 4,000, the village of Ellenville nestles in the Rondout Valley and is flanked to the west by the lower Catskill Mountains and to the east by the Schwangunk Ridge, which the Nature Conservancy has named one of the last 75 great places on Earth. Ellenville has a rich and important history, beginning as a tiny hamlet at a crossroads above the floodplain where 2 mountain streams converge. This small village grew out of this location near the surrounding abundant forest, which was burned to fuel the glassworks that rose beside the D&H Canal in the 1830s. In the mid-19th century, Ellenville glass bottles went west in every settler's wagon. Ellenville grew from a road stop, named whimsically for young Ellen Snyder, to a small industrial town in the 1840s. That small town has been up and down the economic roller coaster ever since. By 1900, the glassworks was long gone, as was the tannery. So was the canal. The age of the railroad brought with it the era of the mountain houses and summer visitors. The Terwilliger House, the Wayside Inn, Yama Farms, grand summer resorts rose across the valley and up on the Schwangunk Ridge. The ultimate in the series was the Nevele, to which famous comedians, wealthy holidaymakers, and even a president of the United States came to stay. Combining with this came another burst of industrial activity, in particular, a local family fathering the TV antenna industry. Starting in the post-war period, the Resnick family grew Channel Master into a serious industrial entity controlling the market for TV aerials in the age of early television. And Channel Master was based in Ellenville. While that was happening, the summer resorts had morphed into the Borscht Belt. From the Nevele to Grossinger's, the area boasted dozens of hotels and hundreds of bungalow colonies that drew a largely Jewish population in the summer. In the era of cars with fins, when baseball still ruled the U.S. sportscape and Eisenhower was succeeded by John F. Kennedy, Ellenville was the most prosperous little place in the region. But the roller coaster continued on. In 1967, the great Wayside Inn, an anchor in the village's downtown, burned to the ground. That unfortunate fate struck so many great hotels in that era, and the rise of cheap air travel spelled doom for the rest of the resorts. With that decline came other jolts to the local economy. Channel Master was sold, and then the factory was moved to South Carolina and cheaper labor. Imperial Schrade, a famous maker of knives with a century-long history in Ellenville, took over part of the big factory, while an aluminum smelter soon occupied the remainder of the building. But the economy was now moving in a new direction. As shopping malls arose, first in Middletown, 25 minutes away in Orange County, then in Kingston, 40 minutes in the other direction, one by one the shops, the boutiques, the five and dime stores shut as their clientele was lured away. The village lost its glow, and the economy dimmed once more. The changing tastes of the 1980s and 90s completed the downward part of the cycle. The resorts died, even the Nevele eventually succumbed, and the bungalow colonies lost their appeal. Both factories closed too. Many of our unique historic buildings and our residential houses began to fall into dilapidation and disrepair. However, even as the previous era's prosperity evaporated, a new development was changing the mix in the region. Weekenders, city residents eager to experience those same mountains, hills, and forests as their forebears, began visiting more. County officials looked south to the 20 million people living just 80 miles away in the largest city in America. They began serious promotion of Ulster County to those millions. Rail trails that began as dotted lines on maps have now become real attractions. Second home buyers became an obvious part of the population, and to serve them, restaurants sprang up, and Ellenville developed a whole restaurant row. Culture began to vie for the slot of local industry, with theaters and art galleries centering as attractions. That change has focused minds on the big gap in the local hospitality industry: lodging. There is precious little in the way of overnight lodging to be found. But the area needs a motel or a hotel, which can be an expensive proposition. And as can be seen, the existing motels we do have are in urgent need of an HGTV hometown takeover makeover. But there is already a growing Airbnb presence in the area, a sure sign of increasing interest. The natural beauty of the Shawangunk Ridge and the Catskill Mountains are drawing visitors on an upwards trend. With help from the HGTV Hometown Takeover team, Ellenville would be poised for another upswing on the roller coaster. Because Ellenville is a real place with a passionate and proud community. It has shops, restaurants, Shadowland stages, parks, and looming above it, the Shawangunk Ridge. People who might want a walkable weekend home, with great hiking nearby and shopping, groceries, theater, and even a Walmart, can find all this and low real estate prices too. Meanwhile, some of the weekenders are turning into weekers who live here and go to Brooklyn on weekends. A new era is dawning, and Ellenville is ready for the sun.
Hi, my name is Jeff Kaplan, and I'm the mayor of Ellenville. I would just like to thank the HGTV Town Takeover team on behalf of myself and the village community for taking the time to consider our submission. Thank you.
But it was a quick snapshot of the history of Ellenville, and it was very fascinating, and certainly some good work went into that as well. We'll move on from there, and for my reports, I see that Mrs. Bruce has joined us this evening. You tell us, I saw last night the village board gave some recognition for tomorrow. Can you tell us the significance of tomorrow's date in our history, speaking of history? I know I'm putting you on the spot, Maud, but... I know, but I think it's important that you tell us about the history of tomorrow. I got Willie as backup in case you get out of control.
She knows better than that.
Tomorrow is NAACP Day. We'll be celebrating 111 years of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored Peoples. And also it's Abraham Lincoln's birthday. And the question was asked last night, how did that come to be? It just come to be that the NAACP was found on February the 12th, 1909, and Abraham Lincoln was born February the 12th, 1909. That was the connection there with the birthday. Also, after Phil left, we made a presentation on the 2020 census, how important that is in Ellenville, because the last 10 years, Ellenville was undercounted. And we have to get everybody counted. And we got a good team, and we plan to get the 4,000 people that's in Ellenville and past Ellenville. Hope that they will fill out the application. But this year, they had an opportunity to do it on the computer. And the ones that don't do it on the computer, you will get the written application in mail. So we just praying and hoping that everybody will fill out those census forms. Because when you don't, you know, we lose funds. The funds don't come into the village or the town when people are undercounted. And Ellenville, the town of Wawarsa, Kingston, and New Paltz, the last 10 years was undercounted. And everybody in the house have to be counted. Baby, the most ones that was not counted is from 1 to 5 years old. And we don't understand why the parents didn't put the children on the application. But everybody in the household have to be counted. And we hope this time that we will be counted and that we can get the funds that need to come into Ellenville. Because if we don't, we will lose funds. Medicaid, SNAP, housing, special education, Head Start. All of these things will be affected. Family, that help people that need help, and the community action. All of these places will be affected if we don't get the count, if the count don't come in. So we hoping that it will be a better count this year than it was 10 years ago.
Thank you, Mrs. Bruce. I also want
I
to...
just want to say that the school, we was here last Friday, and we're working with the school, and Superintendent Wise had Holly Rooker from BOCES that's here, that's working with us. So we praying that we get a count, we get the count that we need, and the NAACP is on the Ulster County Count Committee. So we're working hard to make sure that everybody get counted.
Well, while you're up there, I just want to thank you for your hard work, because as you know, organizations only sustain themselves due to the hard work of people that are behind it and keeping it in the forefront. And you, over the years, your young years, keep this organization going and growing. And certainly, we'd like to thank you for all your hard work and keeping up with that. So continue the hard work, and we appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank
Mrs.
you.
Bruce.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that is all I have. Board membership? Anybody? Nobody? We will move on to, no, student representative's not here. Superintendent Lisa Wiles.
A few dates and some other information to share with you. On Wednesday, March 4th, There was a misprint in the state materials that went out, but on Wednesday, March 4th, the Board of Regents, specifically the region in our area, Josephine Finn, is sponsoring regional meetings to discuss and get feedback regarding high school graduation requirements. So this has been publicized through state ed and locally, but we would really like, and the regents would really like, to hear from communities about really voices about what their view is regarding high school graduation requirements. The forum or the program will be held at Ulster County BOCES, the Jane Bullowa Center in New Paltz, from 5 to 7. The snow date is March 11th. So I would really encourage the board and also community members to attend this important meeting. I think that there's much information to be collected and discussed. Again, the snow date is March 11th. The mistake that went out was that this was publicized from March 11th, but the date is actually March 4th with the snow date of March 11th. At your seats, the high school media specialist, Asha Gallier, has asked us to share with you this flyer. On Wednesday, February 19th, right here in the High School Media Center, there will be a book discussion on the book The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. So again, that discussion will be here in the library, and it's will be a public discussion based on the award-winning book. Students that participate are eligible for community service. Special guests that will be attending are the Ulster County Sheriff Juan Figueroa, our former school resource officer Leroy Seals, and a multitude of students and staff members and clergy. So we have extra books if anyone's interested in collecting a book. I know we gave the board members books some time ago, but this is being co-sponsored, this book talk, with My Brother's Keeper, the Ellenville NAACP, and the Ellenville Public Library Museum. So much thanks to those organizations for working this to get this facilitated, which again is going to be Wednesday, February 19th here. In your packet, there's information about construction design meetings that start tomorrow. Tomorrow, February 12th, 6 to 8, in the high school library, and then next Thursday, the 20th, right here in the media center. And those discussions will look at the areas that were approved for the capital project. The architects are entering into the design phase, so we want stakeholders' input to the design. Of course, after the design, all of that will come back to the board, for approval and discussion, or discussion and approval. And just another reminder that on February 13th at 6:15 in the Village Hall, we will have a marketing meeting with Mr. Berliner, who put that program together, that we saw the video together. He will do an update for the town, school, and board officials regarding where we are in this branding process, coming up with the branding. I really hope that you can make it. I know we wonder where we are in this project. There's a pretty important presentation where he's going to share a lot of the information and the work that's been done. So again, that's at the Village Hall, 6:15 on the 13th, Thursday the 13th. The final thing that I have is that we, as I had mentioned at the last meeting, we are the recipient of a great grant, a P-TECH grant, and it's about a $2.5 million grant that'll be implemented over 6 years. We started the planning phase with people from BOCES, Dr. Corey, who's attending our meeting, our first meeting in March, for an update on BOCES, and he can answer more questions with regard to the Ulster P-TECH program. But there'll be more information coming out to the public and to our parents and students about the process to apply and be accepted into that program. So more information to follow, but we are working diligently on that. And just one last breaking piece of information. next Tuesday, right here in the Media Center, we'll have our first budget workshop for the 2021
Goes fast.
budget development. So that's next Tuesday.
Thank you. Assistant Superintendent for Business, Mr. Napoli.
I have nothing to report tonight, thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Superintendent, Ms. Angela Urbina Medina.
I have nothing to report.
Thank you. And we will move on to the resolutions for this evening. Under 6.1, upon the recommendation of Superintendent of Schools, be it resolved, the Board of Education does hereby approve the settlement agreement with employee number 1585, signed February 3rd, 2020.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? No one? Motion carries. 6.2, upon the recommendation of Superintendent of Schools, be it resolved, the Board of Education does hereby accept the resignation of Maureen Jones for the purpose of retirement effective January 31st, 2020.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? No one? Motion carries. 6.3, upon the recommendation of Superintendent of Schools, be it resolved that the waiver of tenure for Allison Robinson be approved as attached.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? No one? Motion carries. 6.4, upon the recommendation of Superintendent of Schools, be it resolved that Allison Robinson's appointment as long-term substitute teacher be extended until June 30th, 2020 as an or the appointment of a teacher.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? No one? Motion carries. 6.5, upon the recommendation of Superintendent of Schools, be it resolved that Cherish Berry's appointment as a long-term substitute teacher be extended until June 30th, 2020, or the appointment of a teacher.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? No one? Motion carries unanimous. 6.6, upon the recommendation of Superintendent of Schools, be it resolved the following elementary school extended day personnel be approved at a rate of $43 per hour work for the 1920 school year.
Move the list.
List has been moved and seconded. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? No one? Motion carries. 6.7, upon the recommendation of Superintendent of Schools, be it resolved that co-curricular personnel as set forth below be approved at a contractual rate 1920 school year.
Move the list.
Second.
List has been moved and seconded. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? No one? Motion carries unanimous. 6.8, upon the recommendation of Superintendent of Schools, be resolved the following coach for spring be approved as indicated for the 1920 school year.
So moved. Second.
List has been moved and seconded. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? One abstention, myself. 6.9, upon the recommendation of Superintendent of Schools, be it resolved the memorandum of agreement between the Ellenville Central School District and the ETSRPA Teachers Unit be approved as attached.
So moved.
Been
Second.
moved and seconded. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? No one? Motion carries unanimous. Move on to policy resolutions.
Mr. President, move 7172.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? No one? Motion carries. Education resolutions for this evening. Be resolved, the attached list of IEPs be acknowledged as appropriate. There are 45.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? No one? Motion carries. Under other,
Mr. President, move 91 through 95.
Second.
9.1 through 9.5 has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? No one? Motion carries. The next meeting, well, actually, we're having a meeting tomorrow night on construction, those workshop. Those of you that can attend are encouraged to be here. And then we'll meet Tuesday for a budget workshop. Mark your calendars for that. And then our next regular meeting will be on February 25th. Is there anything that anybody wants to see on the agenda for the 25th meeting? No? Okay. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? No one? We're adjourned.